glad you agreed to come today. We've already asked 10 other preachers who said no. As the substitute preacher stood in the pulpit, he noticed a piece of old cardboard filling in the gap in a beautiful but broken stained glass window. You know, he said, standing in for such an eminent preacher today, I feel a bit like that piece of cardboard in the stained glass window. A poor substitute for the real thing. After the service, one of the congregation greeted him warmly at the door. I want you to know, he said, you were not a piece of cardboard this morning. You were a real pain. Oh dear. And I was reminded as well that this is talking about callings on people's lives. And Steve was saying to me earlier about I was on lead vocals this morning because I was at the front, and I said, look, we need to keep people in, not at the drive them away. But it did remind me of this clip, which I think is really, really brilliant. It's a memorandum to Jesus, son of Joseph, at the carpenter's shop in Nazareth. And it's from the Jordan Management Consultants Committee. And it says, dear sir, we thank you for the resumes of the 12 men you have picked for management positions in your new organisation. All of them have now taken our tests, and we have not only run the results through our computer, but also arranged personal interviews for each of them with our psychologist and vocational aptitude consultant. It is the staff opinion that most of your nominees are lacking in background, education and vocational aptitude for the type of enterprise you're about to undertake. They do not have the team concept. We would recommend that you continue your search for persons of experience in managerial positions and proven capabilities. Simon Peter is emotionally unstable and given to fits of temper. Andrew has absolutely no leadership qualities at all. The two brothers, James and John, are placing personal interest above the company loyalty. Thomas demonstrates a questioning attitude that would certainly undermine morale. We feel it is our duty to tell you that Matthew has been blacklisted by the Jerusalem Better Business Bureau. James and Thaddeus definitely have radical leanings, and both have registered a high score on the manic depressive scale. One of the candidates, however, shows tremendous potential. He is a man of ability and resourceful, meets people well and has a keen business mind and has contacts in high places. He's highly motivated, ambitious and responsible. We recommend Judas Iscariot as your controller and right-hand man. All other profiles are self-explanatory. We wish you success in your venture. It's brilliant. It reminds me that God calls people, irrespective of education, irrespective, and he gives people gifts and talents and abilities. But he didn't give me the ability to sing. So here we go. Right.
Time to go.
This is called... Yeah, right again. I'm not looking at my phone, I'm looking at my Bible at the moment. So this morning we're going to dip in and out of Acts 15 and 16. I've entitled this The Midnight Hour. Today is Halloween. Oh, we don't like mentioning that, do we, in church too much? It's since I was a child, which is going back a long time before anyone else says that, Halloween has taken on a new proportion, really. I mean, it's huge, isn't it? Huge these days. And people moan about it in the church, and they say, well, you know, should be doing this, should we do that, and all the rest of it. We're quite happy, though, to entertain Valentine's Day, which, you know, is exactly the same thing. It's come over from the States. Not that I'm insinuating anything against my friends in America, and I've got friends out there as well. But Valentine's Day is huge. But we don't get so much of that in the church, saying that, you know, you shouldn't be saying this and that. I don't know about you, I usually give my wife a Valentine's card, if she's been good. No, but I'm just saying, I was just mentioning Halloween because, and there is a slight link, actually, because we're looking at the midnight hour, and they talk about the fact that witches fly on broomsticks at midnight, and all sorts of things are going on in the heavenly realms. Friends, let me tell you this, there are things going on in the heavenly realms every single day. Not just October 31st. And there'll be things going on tomorrow, which incidentally is All Saints Day. So, you know, let's get a bit of perspective, shall we? That's my little whinge about it. There you go. On your piece of paper you would have had, the text was, I will bless or extol the Lord at all times. So, some of you will know where I'm going with this. It's interesting when you look at Acts chapter 15, there was we've heard a lot this morning about covenant. But in Acts 15, there's a dispute going on between the Jews and the Gentiles over should the fact that Gentiles be circumcised. And quite a bit of Acts 15 is dedicated to this issue. And the apostles and people get together and decide to, in the end, they come to an agreement that the Gentiles do not need to be circumcised. But I could imagine, and I'm using a little bit of preacher's license here, I could imagine it would not have been an easy debate. I think there were people probably who felt quite strongly on both sides, I would imagine. So, Paul is involved in this debate. And then he gets towards the end, in verse 36 to 40, we read that there's a dispute. Now, some people glance over this, but it's actually quite significant because it says that there was a significant dispute. They strongly disagreed. Paul and Barnabas, who had been on the ministry team together, had seen great things going on, and suddenly there's a problem. They want to take John Mark with them. Barnabas does. Now, I'm Mark John, so there you go. I cause disputes, I don't know. Probably I do. But there was a serious dispute that went on. And it was so fierce, the dispute, that they went their separate ways. Now, if you just think about that for a moment, it's very sad in a lot of ways. But it gave an opportunity to double up missionary teams. If you look at it that way, because Barnabas went off and Paul was united with Silas. So John Mark went with Barnabas. Have you heard the phrase, come to Jesus because you'll have a fantastic life? It will be a marvellous life. Now, there are fantastic things when you come to Jesus, don't get me wrong. But I want to tell you, friends, that is the most biggest load of rubbish I've ever heard. that you come to Jesus and everything's all right. And what I'm trying to say this morning is when you look through the chapters and the events that take place between 15 and into 16, which we're going to look at the moment, there are all sorts of ups and downs going on. I've just told you about the dispute in 15. In 16, Paul meets Timothy for the first time. Great, that was really good news. Then they try and preach, him and Silas try and preach somewhere, and, they're not allowed to. The Spirit of Jesus, it says, actually stops them. That means that we can get it wrong sometimes. You know? We think, we need to do this and do that. And then sometimes no, actually, that's not what God wants at this time. And so Paul is then faced with this situation where he can't go there and he can't go there. The ups and downs of the Christian life, friends. And I dare say that each and every one of us are either on an up or a down, or you might be in between at the moment, I don't know. But that is what life's journey is about, is it not? And it's how we manage those times, it's how we go on the journey, it's the things that we do, and we'll look at that in a bit later. So then Paul has a dream. In the middle of the night, midnight hour, he has a dream of a man in Macedonia saying, come on over here. This is the way. Your young men will see visions. Your old men will dream dreams. I tell you a story that I don't think I've ever told before. If I get a bit emotional, you'll understand why. About 2 months before my father died, very prematurely, he was only 53 when he died, he had a massive heart attack. He had a wonderful conversion experience, and he, in the grand scheme of things, if you think about the race of life, Dad was on a sprint really, and he was taken very early. And I had come back, we're going back now to 1986, I had just come back from a missionary visit out to Zimbabwe, where with the people I was working with at the time, we were doing some evangelistic work out there in Harare. And I came home, it was at the end of March, and Dad said to me, Mark, I've got something really exciting to tell you. He said, I've had a dream. So I said, Dad, that's fantastic. I said, wow, and then I'm thinking, is it, about me, or what's he going to tell me? And he told me this dream, and it was so obvious what it meant. It was unbelievable. But he said to me, I was on the ladder climbing up to heaven. He said, and your mum and I were holding hands climbing up the ladder. He said, and then he said, suddenly, your mum wasn't there. And I was still climbing. Now, we all know what it meant. You don't have to be silly not to know what it meant. But I remember saying to Dad, Dad, I'm not hearing that. I said, that's a false dream, don't worry about it. Because I just didn't want to come to terms with that. And I dismissed it. And I remember Dad saying to me, you've got to look after your mum, you've got to look after your brother and your sister. And I said, I don't want to hear it, Dad. In the conversation. 2 months later, he had the heart attack in the garden and died. went to be with Jesus. And as I sat in the room with him, as he was breathing his last on this earth, I was reminded of that dream. And I thought, well, he really did have a dream, and it really did mean what it meant. And at some point, it wasn't easy for me to broach the subject with my mum, as you can imagine. But I did broach the subject with Mum, and Mum said, yeah, he told me the dream as well. So he told my mum the dream as well as me. So dreams can be very important. And Paul has this dream at the midnight hour, and it says, come over to Macedonia. And, it's a fabulous start, friends. He goes over there and he meets Lydia, who's a businesswoman, seller of purple, and she gets saved. And there's a lovely little revival going on. And then we find that there's this lady who's got a spirit of fortune telling in her, and she's going around saying, these men are of the Most High God, and they are telling you the way of salvation. Wow. And in actual fact, there was absolutely nothing wrong with what she was saying. But after a few days, and this is where we have to be careful when we read these chapters, because we don't know time frames, but after a few days it said Paul gets fed up with it. This woman saying, these men are here, and all the time mentioning the same thing. Now, this lady was making a huge amount of money for the people who owned her. So it was a profitable business that was taking place. Real profitable business. Please don't tell me that they didn't understand what money was like back then as we have money today. It's the same problem, is it not? Money drives a lot of things. And in this case, this woman was making the people who owned her a tremendous amount of money. Paul has enough and says, right, get out, come out. The Spirit leads, fantastic. These are exciting things, friends, that are going on. And Lydia's got saved, and they've moved into her house, and there's all sorts of, the church in Philippi is about to be established. Wow, fantastic. And you would think, wow, Paul and Silas must be on a high here. Wow, this is great. Well, what happens is they get beaten by the owners who drag them into the marketplace, basically. You can read all this. I'm just summarising it for you. But they get dragged into the marketplace, they get beaten, and it actually says severely. So they didn't get flogged, just ordinary flogging, they got severely flogged. They were in a bad way. And they get put in prison. What would you say if you were Paul or Silas? What would I say? I've been doing your will, Lord. What's going on? Friends, I'm just being honest. I would be sitting there thinking, God, what, please. There's a very, very, and if you don't get anything else, just listen to what I'm saying now. The prisoners were listening. It says in verse 25, the prisoners were listening. What were they listening to? Now we know the story, but just for a moment think what we might have been saying. What Paul and Silas could have said, what Paul could have said. Crumbs, I've lost the son of encouragement, which is what Barnabas meant, and I've got Silas, which means a forest. He could have said that. He could have had a right whinging moan. Look at these, you know, we've been flogged here really badly. But someone was listening, friends. And I want to tell you, when you're in a position of desperation, when sometimes you're in a prison, when sometimes things are not going as you want them to go, be very careful what you say. Because your life speaks volumes. And people are paying attention and they will see what you are or are not doing. Do you get where I'm coming from? They were listening. The prisoners were listening to Paul and Silas. Now I am absolutely thrilled to say that they were putting into practice the text, I will bless the Lord. I will bless the Lord at all times. I just feel today that there's more than one person in here who's in a prison. Could be a prison of pain. These guys were in pain, being severely flogged. I think there may be one or two people in here who are just fed up with the ups and downs of life. I want to talk a bit about pain here. And I know that one or two of you have experienced a lot of pain recently. Let me tell you about my own situation. About a week and a half ago, I did something to my back. I'm not quite sure what I did, but I've been in a lot of pain. You will have noticed I didn't sit down this morning. The problem I've got is I'm okay when I'm mobile. As soon as I go to sit down, it all locks up. And then it's very difficult for me to move. Right? Now, I've already spoken to Paul. People are going to pray for me when I finish speaking. But pain has a very, very wearing down effect on you. Doesn't it, Karen? It does. I know exactly. I've been through operations when I'm in pain. Steve's just had an operation. And pain can get you down. These two guys, for doing the Lord's work, for seeing things going remarkably well, are suddenly in a place where they're in agony. But at midnight, the midnight hour, they decide, I will bless the Lord. I will extol his name. I will praise him. Wow, what power for inclinations has that got? What happened, friends, was, and I just love it, the doors burst open. The prisons were, you know, all the prisoners were loosed. The Philippine jailer was in a pickle, real pickle, because his job was on the line. And it would have meant he would have been executed. That's how serious it was. I just finished by telling you this. If we want to experience miracles, if we want to experience release from prisons, from difficulties, in the ups and downs of life, if we want to see revival, friends, we have got to learn this one lesson, I believe, and that is whatever is going on circumstantially, whatever is going on with us in this life, we will praise the name of the Lord. And I absolutely believe 100% that if we do that, we will see these things taking place. We will see people touched. We will see people healed. We will see churches established, which is what it goes on to talk about as you read through the book of Acts. It's not easy. I was driving to work. Don't ask me how I got in and out of the car, I haven't got a clue. I was driving to work saying, Lord, this is how it started, by the way, not where I was at the end, but I said, Lord, please heal me. I'm in a real pickle here, Lord. Do you want me to get rid of my car? No, that can't be right. So, but seriously, I'm praying, Lord, please do something. I'm in pain. I've got my job to do at the hospital, and some of it involves doing some lifting and things, and I'm just thinking, what? I'm just so concerned, Lord. And I know you can heal me, Lord. And just as God does with me, he says, when you're preaching, Mark, a couple of this was a week and a half ago, Sunday week. What are you preaching on? And I thought, yeah, but it's nothing to do with, I just need a touch, Lord, in my back here. Yeah, but Mark, what are you speaking on? Praising God in all circumstances. And I'm just being very real with you, friends. And in that moment, as I'm driving to work one morning, I started, Lord, just please help me get out my car at the other end, because, I was really worried I was going to be crawling out, whatever. And I just felt so compelled to praise the name of Jesus in my car. And I started worshiping God. And I started praising the Lord. And I started thinking more about the sermon, what I was going to say to you this morning. And I'm just thinking, wow, God, you can do so many great things. Please help me when I'm in a pickle to remember that I need to praise you no matter what's going on.
Amen.
Now you want to hear that I've been miraculously healed and my back is fine. No, it's not. It is not. I've got some big issues going on. And one thing I will say, friends, and I will say this, when you get older, you have to learn that there are things you can do and things you cannot do. And I've said this to one or two, I get pains in places I never knew existed 20 years ago. So I have to learn that I need to be sensible. I need to lift things properly. I need to, that's the common sense angle that God has given to us. But I do believe that God can touch and heal as well. Okay? So I haven't had a miraculous healing. I'm still managing my back. But whilst I say that, I am here this morning and I am worshipping the living God. Amen. And I am prepared to honour and praise his name. And as we were singing there earlier, as we were singing, what a powerful name. And I totally believe that he is a powerful one who can touch and heal any one of us. And if you're in a prison this morning, just burst into prayer, burst into song, and say, God, I know I'm in this place. After they had been released from prison, it's interesting that they ministered to their wounds. So obviously it was a big deal, the flogging they'd had. So I am just going to conduct, I'm not singing it. We're going to have another song. Yes, because as I said earlier, we don't want people walking in. But I am here and I want people to pray for me. And if you want prayer, friends, then this is the time when we are praising God in this song. Just raise your hand and someone near you will come and pray and seek God. And we can believe for miracles. We can believe that God can touch us. We can believe that in this prison there are people listening, friends. Please remember, when you're in a bad place, there's always someone listening. There's always someone watching. Just remember that. I really feel burdened with that. Be careful what you say. Be careful how you respond to situations. Because when you look at that, it's supernatural, is it not? Paul and Silas in the prison, in a real pickle, but they're praising God. Let's do that this morning.